Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Cami is off today. We begin with a first alert update now. A Green Bay drug dealer arrested with about 6 pounds of meth in her hotel room earlier this year has now been sentenced in federal court. Nicole Forge accepted a plea deal in federal court. She pleaded guilty to 2 counts, including possession of methamphetamine with the intent to distribute. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Brittany Schmidt first alerted us to this investigation back in May. She joins us now in the newsroom to tell us what else the federal judge ordered in the case. Brittany.
Mill, while looking at the sentencing documents, we noticed the judge wants LaForge to participate in the Bureau of Prisons' 500-hour drug treatment program. According to the criminal complaint that landed her in the federal court, she told authorities most of her life has revolved around illegal drugs. She's been in drug treatment before here in Brown County. In 2021, LaForge entered Brown County's heroin court treatment program, which aims to give a second chance to those struggling with addiction. During the program, she had to complete routine drug testing, supervision sessions, and drug abuse treatment programs. Last August, Action 2 News was there when she graduated from the program. Now, 7 months later in March, the Brown County Drug Task Force arrested her at a downtown Green Bay hotel after a controlled buy. Evidence photos show what she describes as approximately 6 pounds of meth, which has a street value between $46,000 and $92,000. LaForge admitted to making about a dozen trips to Chicago to pick up drugs and bring them back to Wisconsin. In total, she estimates dealing up to 30 pounds of the drug. Now, once she is released from prison, she will then be under supervised release for another 10 years after that. In the newsroom, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.
Brittany.